Hello there, and welcome. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Maybe you've had a long day, or maybe you're the kind of person who likes drifting off to sleep with stories of faraway places and familiar faces rather than counting sheep. Either way, this journey is for you. You've got nothing to do but rest. Let your mind relax, your breathing slow, and your body grow light, as if gravity itself has softened. Because tonight, we aren't simply watching from afar. We're drifting through a world of hunters and hidden powers, of mountain estates and moonlit battles, of friendship and quiet courage. We're going to spend some time with one of the most beloved characters in anime history. A boy with silver hair and blue eyes. A boy who was raised to be an assassin but chose to become something else entirely. Tonight, we're learning about Killua Zoldyck. Some of what you hear may surprise you. Some of it may spark curiosity as you drift off to sleep. And if these calm, curious explorations help you unwind or give you a quiet way to end your day, then this time together will have been well spent. One sleepy soul at a time. Now, let's begin. Killua Zoldyck is a fictional character who first appeared in the manga Hunter x Hunter, a series written and illustrated by Yoshihiro Togashi. The manga began its serialization in Shueisha's weekly Shonen Jump magazine on March 3, 1998, and has continued, with notable hiatuses, ever since. Togashi, born on April 27, 1966, in Yamagata Prefecture, Japan, had already achieved considerable success with his previous series, Yu Yu Hakusho, which ran from 1990 to 1994. When he began work on Hunter x Hunter, he brought with him a reputation for intricate storytelling and complex character development. Killua was one of the very first characters Togashi created for this new world. The author conceived of him specifically to fill the role of the protagonist's best friend. The protagonist, Gon Freaks, was designed to be bright and optimistic, a boy searching for his absent father. Togashi felt that Gon needed a companion who could provide contrast, someone whose background and personality would create interesting dynamics throughout the story. And so Killua was born from that creative impulse, a character meant to walk alongside Gon through all the adventures to come. The relationship between Gon and Killua would become the emotional heart of Hunter x Hunter. Togashi has spoken about how Gon's young age and innocent nature influenced how he approached Killua's character. He wanted someone who could match Gon's determination while bringing a different perspective, someone shaped by very different circumstances. In creating Killua, Togashi drew inspiration from various anime and manga works he enjoyed, though the specific influences remain largely his own to know. Killua Zoldyck is introduced in the story as a 12-year-old boy. He appears during the Hunter examination, a grueling series of tests that candidates must pass to earn the prestigious title of Hunter. Hunters in this world are elite individuals licensed to pursue various occupations, from tracking rare creatures to exploring uncharted territories. The examination itself is notoriously difficult, with a pass rate that hovers near zero most years. Many applicants do not survive. When we first meet Killua, he arrives at the examination site with an air of casual confidence. He's carrying a skateboard, which in the 2011 anime adaptation is colored yellow with red wheels. In the earlier 1999 anime, the skateboard appeared dark blue-green with a yellow arrow design. These small differences between adaptations are common, and neither is more correct than the other. They're simply different artistic interpretations of Togashi's original work. Killua's physical appearance is distinctive. He has spiky silver hair, sometimes described as white, which falls naturally without apparent styling. His skin is very pale, and his eyes are blue in the manga and the 2011 anime adaptation. Interestingly, in the 1999 anime produced by Nippon Animation, his eyes were depicted as green, particularly in the later original video animations. His build is lean at the start of the series, the result of constant physical conditioning since early childhood. As the story progresses and he grows older, his physique becomes more muscular and defined. One notable detail about Killua's eyes is that they change shape depending on his emotional state. When he's relaxed or happy, his eyes appear rounder and more youthful. But when he enters what fans often call his assassination mode, When he becomes focused on danger or threat, his eyes narrow and sharpen considerably. This visual shorthand helps convey his internal state without words, a clever design choice that allows readers and viewers to understand his shifting mindset at a glance. Killua typically wears baggy, comfortable clothing. His most recognizable outfit consists of a long-sleeved, dark-colored turtleneck shirt and loose shorts. In the manga and the 2011 anime, his shorts are long and baggy, reaching below his knees. The 1999 anime shortened them to end above his knees. Again, these variations reflect different production teams interpreting the source material in their own ways. The name Killua Zoldyck carries weight in the world of Hunter x Hunter. The Zoldyck family is legendary, known across the globe as the most feared and respected family of assassins in existence. Their reputation precedes them wherever they go. Merely mentioning the Zoldyck name can cause seasoned criminals to back down, hardened fighters to reconsider, and entire organizations to negotiate rather than confront. Killua rarely mentions his surname for this reason. It would draw unwanted attention, questions, and possibly attacks from those seeking the bounties that have been placed on Zoldyck heads over the years. Killua is the third of 5 children born to Silva and Killua Zoldyck. Silva is the current head of the family, a towering figure with silver hair much like his son's. He is an incredibly powerful fighter and user, someone who has faced some of the strongest individuals in the world and emerged victorious. Kikyo, Killua's mother, is also an elite assassin. She wears distinctive clothing, often appearing in a dark bustle gown and broad-brimmed hat, with her face sometimes wrapped in bandages due to an injury Killua himself inflicted when he ran away from home. Killua's siblings are each distinctive in their own way. His eldest brother is Illumi, a figure who plays a complex and often antagonistic role in Killua's life. Illumi is a master manipulator, someone who can control others through special needles that alter behavior and appearance. He was heavily involved in Killua's training and holds deeply possessive feelings toward his younger brother, viewing him as a possession to be molded rather than a person to be loved. The second eldest brother is Miluki, who differs significantly from the rest of his family. While still trained as an assassin, Miluki lacks the physical conditioning of his siblings. He compensates for this with technical skills, serving as the family's inventor and hacker. He creates specialized equipment and gathers intelligence through electronic means. Despite their differences, Miluki gave Killua the yo-yos that would later become his signature weapons. Younger than Killua are Aluka and Kaluto. Aluka is Killua's younger sister, someone he loves deeply and protects fiercely. She holds a special place in his heart, and her storyline becomes crucial in later portions of the narrative. Kaluto is the youngest, a quiet child who eventually seeks Killua out by joining the infamous Phantom Troop, hoping to find his older brother and bring him home. The Zoldyck family resides on Kukuru Mountain, located in the Republic of Padokia. The mountain itself serves as their estate, with the main mansion situated at its heart. The entire property is surrounded by forest and protected by multiple layers of security, including dangerous creatures and highly trained servants. The family's staff are formidable in their own right. According to lore within the series, approximately 100 skilled assassins once gathered to attack the Zoldyck estate and claimed the bounties on their heads. None of them survived past the servants' quarters. The entrance to the Zoldyck estate features the testing gate, a massive structure that serves both as security and as a measure of strength. The gate consists of 7 doors nested within each other, each progressively heavier than the last. The innermost and smallest gate weighs 4 tons per door, meaning a person must push 8 tons to open it. Each successive gate doubles this weight. Killua, before he learned to use Nen, could open the 3rd gate, which required pushing approximately 16 tons. This gives a sense of his raw physical strength even at a young age. Killua's birthday is celebrated on July 7th in the 2011 anime adaptation, though the 1999 version listed June 15th. Sources sometimes differ on such details, which is common when a series spans multiple adaptations over many years. What remains consistent is that Killua was 12 years old when he first appeared in the story and has aged modestly throughout the narrative, currently estimated to be around 14 or 15 years old. His listed height is 158 centimeters, and his weight is commonly cited as being between 45 and 49 kilograms. His blood type is A. These details appear in official character guides and contribute to the sense of Killua as a fully realized person within the fictional world. From the moment of his birth, Killua showed remarkable promise as an assassin. The Zoldyck family recognized this potential and subjected him to their traditional training regimen, which began almost immediately. By the age of 3, Killua had started learning to tail targets, a skill that routinely put his life at risk. The training was harsh, designed to forge an elite killer capable of succeeding where others would fail. Part of this training involved building resistance to various forms of harm. Killua was subjected to poisons repeatedly until his body developed immunity to most toxic substances. He was also exposed to electricity, administered by his older brother Maluki as both training and punishment. These sessions were intense and painful, but they left Killua with an extraordinary tolerance for electrical current. This resistance would later become foundational to his fighting style. The training also included torture. Killua learned to endure pain that would incapacitate ordinary people. He was conditioned to keep fighting, keep thinking, keep moving regardless of injury or discomfort. This aspect of his upbringing is hinted at throughout the series, with other characters occasionally remarking on how tragic his childhood must have been to produce such capabilities. At the age of 6, Killua was sent to participate in the martial arts tournament at Heaven's Arena. This enormous building, reaching 251 floors high, hosts continuous fighting competitions. Challengers begin at the bottom and work their way up by defeating opponents, earning both money and prestige along the way. The upper floors attract the world's most skilled fighters. Killua reached the 200th floor after 2 years of fighting. The first 150 floors took him approximately 2 months, and the final stretch to the 200th floor took the remaining time. At this level, fighters are expected to use Nin, the supernatural energy system that underlies much of the combat in Hunter x Hunter. Killua reached this point but chose to leave, returning home having proven himself capable but not yet interested in pursuing the higher levels. By the time he reached 11 years old, Killua had become disillusioned with his family's path. He was tired of killing, tired of the expectations placed upon him, tired of the controlled existence that left no room for choice or friendship. His father Silva had ordered him and his brothers to avoid the Phantom Troop, a notorious band of thieves, after the family completed a high-profile assassination of one of the troop's members. This incident seems to have contributed to Killua's growing disenchantment. One day, Killua decided to leave. He injured both his mother and his brother Illumi in the process, though neither injury was fatal. He ran away from Kukuru Mountain with no particular destination in mind, seeking something different from the life that had been mapped out for him since birth. On a whim, he decided to take the hunter examination. Not because he wanted to become a hunter necessarily, but because it seemed like something to do. Something his family hadn't planned. The 287th hunter examination is where Killua's story truly begins. He arrived at the testing site and quickly fell in with Gon Freaks, a boy his own age with spiky green-black hair and an earnest, friendly demeanor. Gon was searching for his father, a famous hunter named Jing who had left him as a child. Also joining their group were Kurapika, the last survivor of the Kuta clan seeking revenge against those who murdered his people, and Leorio, an older candidate who wanted to become a doctor and needed the financial resources a hunter license could provide. Killua and Gon connected almost immediately. Despite their vastly different backgrounds, they shared a certain energy, a willingness to face challenges head-on and a surprising compatibility in temperament. Gon's openness and sincerity were new to Killua. He had never had a friend before, not truly. The Zoldyck estate allowed for no such connections. During the examination, Killua demonstrated his exceptional abilities multiple times. In one early challenge, a fellow examinee named Tampa offered Killua a drink laced with a powerful laxative intended to eliminate competitors. Killua drank it without concern, then asked for more. The poison had no effect on him whatsoever, a testament to his built-up resistances. Throughout the various phases of the exam, Killua showed himself to be one of the strongest candidates. He possessed speed, strength, intelligence, and ruthlessness in measures that few could match. In the Trick Tower phase, he faced an opponent named Jonas the Dissector, a mass murderer who had claimed at least 146 lives with his bare hands. Killua defeated him instantly, removing his heart before Jonas even realized he had moved. The kill was so quick and clean that Jonas had time to look at his own heart in Killua's hand before collapsing. This moment revealed the stark contrast within Killua's character. On one hand, he was a cheerful boy enjoying the company of his new friends. On the other, he was a trained killer capable of ending lives without hesitation or remorse. This duality would define much of his character arc throughout the series. The final phase of the 287th Hunter examination brought Killua face to face with his brother Illumi, who had been participating in disguise under the name Gitaracker. Illumi used special needles to alter his own appearance, becoming unrecognizable until he chose to reveal himself. During this phase, Illumi confronted Killua about his growing friendship with Gon. Illumi's influence over Killua was profound. He had been deeply involved in Killua's training, and his teachings had been drilled into his younger brother's psyche. Illumi told Killua that he was incapable of having friends, that his nature as an assassin made genuine connection impossible. He implied threats against Gon's life if Killua continued to associate with him. Something in Killua broke during this confrontation. Conditioned to obey, conditioned to believe Illumi's words, he became unresponsive and withdrawn. In the subsequent match, Killua killed a fellow examinee named Bedoro from behind, an act that disqualified him from the examination. This was not characteristic behavior. Killua had no reason to attack Bedoro. But under Illumi's psychological manipulation, he acted without conscious choice. Killua left the examination site and returned home to Kukuru Mountain. His friends, now officially hunters, resolved to retrieve him. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio traveled to the Zoldyck estate, determined to see Killua again despite the dangers involved. The journey to reach Killua was not easy. Gon and his companions had to navigate the security of the estate, including the testing gate and various servants who tested their resolve. Eventually, Gon was brought before Killua's father, Silva, and his grandfather, Zeno. Rather than threatening or intimidating him, they allowed Gon to wait for Killua to come to him. Meanwhile, Killua was confined within the estate, chained and subjected to punishment for his disobedience. His brother Maluki whipped him repeatedly, though Killua endured it without reaction. When Maluki insulted Gon, however, Killua's demeanor changed instantly. He threatened his brother with such cold intensity that Maluki backed away in fear. Silva eventually summoned Killua for a conversation. Rather than condemning his son for running away or befriending an outsider, Silva listened. He asked about the hunter examination, about the people Killua had met, about how his experiences had made him feel. Killua recounted his adventures, perhaps for the first time sharing them with anyone. Silva then asked a crucial question. Did Killua want to see his friends again? Killua hesitated. The conflict within him was visible. But Silva acknowledged something important in that moment. He told Killua that he was his own person, not merely an extension of the family. This recognition, this validation of Killua's individual identity, allowed him to respond truthfully. Yes, he wanted to see his friends. Silva made Killua promise one thing. He must never betray his friends. With that promise made, Silva allowed him to leave. Kikyo attempted to stop him, but Killua's glare caused her to back down. He reunited with Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio at the butler's quarters, laughing at Gon's beaten appearance from the trials he had endured to reach this point. The butler Godo was ordered not to follow, and Killua left the Zoldyck estate behind. This departure marked a turning point. Killua had chosen his path, at least for now. He would travel with Gon, learn about the world outside Kukuru Mountain, and discover what kind of person he might become when freed from his family's expectations. Gon and Killua's first destination after leaving the estate was Heaven's Arena. Gon wanted to train and become stronger before pursuing his goal of finding his father. Killua, already familiar with the tower from his childhood, accompanied him. They ascended through the lower floors with ease, quickly reaching the point where real competition began. At Heaven's Arena, they encountered a boy named Zushi, a student of a martial arts master named Wing. Zushi was capable of feats that surprised them, displaying an unusual resilience and power that didn't match his apparent skill level. Killua noticed something familiar about the energy Zushi projected. It reminded him of his brother Illumi. This was Nin. Wing eventually explained the concept to Gon and Killua, opening their eyes to the hidden world of aura that separated ordinary fighters from extraordinary ones. Nin is the ability to use and manipulate one's life energy, called aura. Most people leak their aura constantly, but through training, individuals can learn to contain it within their bodies, release it strategically, and even transmute it into various forms and abilities. There are 4 basic techniques of Nin. 10 involves containing one's aura within the body to strengthen it and slow aging. Setsu suppresses aura entirely, making the user harder to detect. Ren releases aura to intimidate opponents or power up attacks. Hatsu is the personal expression of one's Nin, a unique ability that varies from person to person. Nin users fall into 6 categories based on their natural inclination. Enhancers strengthen themselves or objects. Transmuters change the quality of their aura to mimic other substances. Emitters can project their aura over distances. Conjurers create physical objects from aura. Manipulators control people or objects. Specialists possess abilities that don't fit other categories. Killua is a transmuter. This means his natural ability involves changing the properties of his aura entirely. Given his childhood exposure to electricity, it was perhaps inevitable that he would develop techniques involving electrical transmutation. Wing taught Gon and Killua the basics of Nin, though he was initially reluctant. Learning Nin improperly can be dangerous, even fatal. But the boys were determined and talented, and they progressed rapidly. Killua in particular showed remarkable control. Biscuit Kruger, a trainer they would meet later, noted that Killua's mastery of Nin control was exceptional, the kind of precision she herself hadn't achieved until her 20s. Gon possessed greater raw aura output, but Killua's finesse was unmatched for his age. At Heaven's Arena, they climbed to the 200th floor, wherein users battled for glory and money. They faced various opponents, testing their growing skills against fighters with years more experience. The tower served as a crucible, forging their abilities through continuous challenge. It was also at Heaven's Arena that Killua first demonstrated his electrical abilities. When showing Wing and Biscuit what he could do, both were disturbed by the implications. For Killua to transmute his aura into electricity and use it on his own body, he would have needed to withstand tremendous amounts of electrical current during his training. The realization that a child had been subjected to such torture was sobering. Biscuit commented that it was a miracle Killua could smile at all, given what his childhood must have entailed. But Killua did smile. He laughed. He enjoyed spending time with Gon, experiencing the simple pleasures of friendship that had been denied him for so long. The trauma was there, beneath the surface, but it did not define him entirely. After Heaven's Arena, Gon and Killua's paths led them toward your new city, a massive metropolitan center hosting the world's largest auction. Gon sought information about his father, while Kurapika pursued his vendetta against the Phantom Troop, who had stolen the Scarlet Eyes of his murdered clan. The York New City arc brought the young heroes into contact with dangerous forces. The Phantom Troop was present in the city, planning to steal the auction's treasures. Killua and Gon found themselves caught between their friend Kurapika's mission of vengeance and the terrifying power of the troop's members. During this arc, Killua displayed both his combat abilities and his intelligence. He was able to follow members of the Phantom Troop without being detected, a testament to his assassin training. Melody, a hunter with extraordinarily acute hearing, noted that she could barely hear Killua's footsteps even when he was running beside her. His capacity for stealth was remarkable. The Phantom Troop itself had connections to the Zoldyck family. Killua's father Silva had killed one of their members years prior, and the troop leader Krallo had fought both Silva and Zeno during the Your New events. These intersections highlighted how the world of Hunter x Hunter is interconnected, with powerful individuals and organizations existing in complex webs of relationship and rivalry. Following the events in your new city, Gon and Killua set their sights on Greed Island, a video game created by Jing Freaks and his companions. The game existed as a real place accessible only through Nen, where players collected cards representing items and locations. Completing the game might provide clues to finding Jing. On Greed Island, Gon and Killua met Biscuit Kruger, a character who would become essential to their development. Biscuit appeared to be a young girl, perhaps 12 years old, with blonde curls and a cute demeanor. In reality, she was 57 years old, a double-star stone hunter with decades of experience. Her youthful appearance was an inability that allowed her to maintain a form she found more aesthetically pleasing than her true muscular physique. Biscuit recognized the potential in Gon and Killua and agreed to train them. Her methods were demanding. As their first exercise, she had them fight a criminal named Binoke for 2 weeks, learning to adapt and improve under pressure. Killua nearly lost an eye early in this training, a reminder that their teacher took no shortcuts. The training continued relentlessly. Biscuit had them dig through rock with shovels, run across the island, and fight monster after monster. She taught them advanced techniques and refined their existing abilities. Under her guidance, both boys grew significantly stronger. It was during the Greed Island arc that Killua received his signature weapons. His brother Maluki gave him 2 yo-yos made from a special metal alloy. These yo-yos were not toys. Each one weighed 50 kilograms, heavy enough to cause serious damage when swung with force. Their reflective surfaces could also serve as mirrors, allowing Killua to check around corners without exposing himself. The yo-yos complemented Killua's electrical abilities perfectly. He could channel his aura through them, adding the stunning effect of electricity to the physical impact of the weights. Biscuit noted this synergy approvingly, recognizing that Killua was developing a coherent combat style that utilized all his assets. During this arc, Killua also left the game temporarily to take the 288th Hunter examination. Unlike his first attempt, which ended in disqualification, this examination was almost absurdly easy for him. He passed in an hour and a half, crushing all other applicants in the first phase and becoming the sole successful candidate. His skill had advanced dramatically since his previous attempt. Greed Island concluded with a confrontation against Jethro, known as the Bomber, a player who had been killing competitors to collect their cards. Gon fought Jethro directly while Killua and Biscuit handled his companions. The battle tested everything they had learned, and they emerged victorious. With the game completed, Gon and Killua used one of their prize cards to transport themselves to who they hoped would be Jing. Instead, they found themselves with Kite, a student of Jing's who became a crucial figure in the next phase of their journey. Kite led an investigation into unusual creatures that had appeared in the Republic of East Gorto and the neighboring nation of NGL. These creatures were chimera ants, a species that consumed other organisms and incorporated their traits into their offspring. A chimera ant queen had somehow grown to enormous size and begun feeding on humans, producing soldiers with increasing intelligence and power. The chimera ant arc is widely considered one of the most significant storylines in Hunter x Hunter. It spans many chapters and episodes, featuring intense battles, complex themes, and substantial character development for nearly everyone involved. Gon, Killua, and Kite entered NGL to investigate. They encountered chimera ant soldiers and engaged in combat, with Kite instructing the boys to fight on their own to gain experience. The enemies were formidable, forcing them to push their limits. Then came Neferpitou. Neferpitou was the first of the chimera ant royal guards to be born, a cat-like creature of immense power. When Pitou emerged, their aura was so overwhelming that even experienced hunters could barely comprehend it. Kite recognized the threat immediately. He ordered Gon and Killua to run while he held Pitou back. Gon and Killua escaped. Kite did not. This loss affected Gon profoundly. He blamed himself for being too weak to help, for running away while Kite faced an enemy alone. The trauma would fester throughout the arc, eventually driving Gon to extreme and self-destructive actions. For Killua, the immediate aftermath involved training. Isaac Netero, the chairman of the Hunter Association and one of the most powerful humans alive, was assembling a team to exterminate the Chimera ants before they could threaten humanity further. He offered Gon and Killua a chance to participate, but only if they could prove themselves by defeating 2 experienced hunters named Knuckle and Shoot within 1 month. Biscuit returned to help with their training. She pushed them harder than ever, reducing their sleep cycles through her inability and maximizing every moment of practice. Gon worked on his signature technique, Jijankin, while Killua refined his electrical abilities. The battles against Knuckle and Shoot did not go as hoped. Despite their training, Gon and Killua lost. However, they had impressed their opponents enough to earn a measure of respect. They would eventually join the operation, though their role was initially uncertain. During this period of preparation, Killua faced a crisis that would prove transformative. While watching over Gon, who had temporarily lost access to his nin due to the conditions of their match with Knuckle, Killua encountered a Chimera ant. The enemy threatened Gon's life. Killua had to act. But he couldn't. Every instinct told him to flee. His body refused to engage. The opponent wasn't necessarily stronger than him, but uncertainty existed, and that uncertainty triggered something deep within his psyche. He was paralyzed. In that moment of crisis, Killua realized the truth. Illumi had implanted a needle in his brain years ago. This needle influenced his behavior at a subconscious level, forcing him to retreat whenever he faced an opponent without guaranteed victory. All those times he had run from difficult situations, all those moments of hesitation and fear, they weren't entirely his own choices. They were Illumi's programming. Killua reached into his own skull and pulled the needle out. The pain must have been excruciating, but Killua endured it, just as he had endured everything else. With the needle removed, he was finally free to make his own decisions about when to fight and when to flee. The psychological shackle Illumi had placed on him was broken. This moment represents one of the most powerful scenes in Killua's character arc. He literally removed his brother's influence from his mind, reclaiming control over his own actions. The symbolism is potent. The needle represented the conditioning, the manipulation, the forced obedience that had defined his upbringing. Removing it was an act of liberation. With his mind clear, Killua defeated the Chimera ant and protected Gon. He had taken another step toward becoming the person he wanted to be rather than the person his family had tried to create. The palace invasion that followed was one of the most meticulously planned and intensely executed operations in the series. Netero led a team including Gon, Killua, Knuckle, Shoot, Morel, and others into the royal palace where the Chimera Ant King resided. Their objective was extermination. Killua's role during the invasion showcased his abilities at their peak. He used Godspeed, his most powerful nin technique, to devastating effect. Godspeed allows Killua to react and move his body at speeds that would normally be impossible for a human. It works by transmuting his aura into an electrical field that bypasses his nervous system, sending signals directly to his muscles without the delay of normal neural transmission. Godspeed has 2 components. The first, Whirlwind, allows Killua's body to react automatically to threats. When activated, his aura responds to contact or killing intent without conscious thought, moving his body to evade or counter before his brain even registers the danger. The second component, Speed of Lightning, allows him to move consciously at extreme velocities, appearing as little more than a blur to observers. Using Godspeed, Killua engaged Menthatha Yuppie, one of the 3 royal guards. Yuppie was a mountain of muscle and rage, capable of reshaping his body at will. He was vastly more powerful than Killua in terms of raw aura output. But speed matters in combat, and Killua was faster. The battle was not a victory in the traditional sense. Killua couldn't defeat Yuppie outright. But he could distract him, damage him, and buy time for the operation to proceed. Every second Yuppie spent dealing with Killua was a second he wasn't interfering with the others. And Killua's electrical attacks, while not devastating, accumulated damage that even a royal guard couldn't entirely ignore. This confrontation demonstrated Killua's growth. He faced an opponent who outclassed him in almost every metric and held his ground through skill, speed, and courage. He didn't run. He chose to fight because the mission required it, because his friends needed him. The needle was gone, and so was the compulsion to flee. The Chimera Ant arc concluded with tremendous sacrifice and bittersweet resolution. The king was defeated, though Netero gave his life in the process. The royal guards fell. The threat to humanity was neutralized, at least for the moment. But Gon paid a terrible price. In his battle against Neferpitou, driven by rage and grief over Kite's fate, Gon sacrificed his potential, his future, his very life force to achieve a momentary transformation that allowed him to destroy his enemy. The transformation left him comatose, his body withered and dying, with no apparent way to save him. Killua refused to accept this. He knew of one possibility. His sister Aluka possessed a unique and terrifying power. Aluka Zoldyck was born as the fourth child of Silva and Kikyo. At some point in her life, she became the host for a being called Nanika, an entity from the Dark Continent with the ability to grant wishes. When Nanika takes over, Aluka's eyes turn entirely black, and she can fulfill almost any request made of her. The power comes with conditions. Before Nanika will grant a wish, Aluka makes 3 requests of the person asking. These requests can be simple or extreme depending on the magnitude of the previous wish granted. If someone refuses 4 of Aluka's requests in a row, they die, along with their loved ones. The more significant the wish, the more dangerous the subsequent requests become. The Zoldyck family recognized the danger Aluka represented and kept her isolated, locked away in a secure room on the estate. They treated her not as a daughter or sister, but as a thing to be contained. Only Killua treated her with genuine affection. And Killua discovered something the rest of his family did not know. When he asked Nanika to do something, using the phrase, Killua said, there were no conditions, no subsequent requests, no danger. For reasons unknown, Nanika responded to Killua differently than to anyone else. Perhaps because he loved her. Perhaps because he was the only one who did. Killua returned to the Zoldyck estate and demanded to take Aluka out. His family resisted. Silva saw Aluka as a lethal hazard from the Dark Continent, something to be controlled rather than released. Elimi wanted to use Nanika's power for his own purposes and saw Killua's unique relationship with her as a threat to be eliminated. What followed was a tense confrontation. Killua opposed his family directly, asserting his intention to save Gon and protect Aluka regardless of what they wanted. He navigated the conditions his father set, outsmarted the servants sent to monitor him, and evaded Elimi's attempts to control the situation. Throughout this ordeal, Killua's love for both Gon and Aluka was evident. He was willing to face his entire family, to become their enemy if necessary, to save the people he cared about. This was a Killua who had fully embraced his own values, who no longer bowed to family expectation or brotherly manipulation. Nanika healed Gon. The damage was undone, his body restored, his life saved. The miracle came at no cost to anyone, because Killua asked for it, and Nanika would do anything for Killua. In the aftermath, Killua made a decision that would separate him from Gon for the first time since they met. He asked Nanika never to come out again, fearing that her power would continue to endanger them both. This meant Aluka would remain only Aluka, without the entity that made her valuable and dangerous to others. Later, alone with his sister, Killua apologized to Nanika for his request. He asked for her forgiveness for being a bad brother, for treating her as something to be managed rather than someone to be loved. Nanika forgave him. Of course she did. Gon, now recovered, completed his journey and finally met his father Jing. The two spent time together, and Gon gained closure on the quest that had driven him since the beginning of the story. Killua, meanwhile, chose to travel the world with Aluka. He had decided to dedicate himself to protecting her, to giving her the life she had been denied while locked away. Gon understood. Their friendship remained intact, but their paths diverged. This separation was emotional but not tragic. The boys had grown throughout their journey, and part of growing up is recognizing that even the closest relationships can evolve. Gon had found his father. Killua had found his purpose. They would meet again someday, but for now, they had their own roads to walk. The voice actors who have brought Killua to life deserve recognition as part of his story. In the 1999 anime adaptation produced by Nippon Animation, Killua was voiced by Kanako Mitsuhashi in Japanese. Mitsuhashi, born January 10, 1978, in the Hodogai Ward of Yokohama, brought warmth and complexity to the character during the original series and its subsequent original video animations. She has spoken about finding the work challenging, particularly during the Greed Island final OVAs, but also enjoyable, especially working alongside Keiko Higuchi, who voiced Biscuit Kruger. For the English dub of the 1999 series, Killua was voiced by Annika Odegaard. The English voice work was handled by the Ocean Group at Blue Water Studios in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. This adaptation brought Hunter x Hunter to English-speaking audiences, though it had more limited distribution than later versions. The 2011 anime adaptation, produced by Madhouse, featured Maria Ayase as Killua's Japanese voice. Ayase, born September 25, 1988, in Yokohama, Kanagawa, has become closely identified with the role. She is affiliated with Across Entertainment and has voiced many other notable characters throughout her career, including Reg from Made in Abyss, Rei from The Promised Neverland, and the younger version of Satoru Gojo in Jujutsu Kaisen. The connection between Killua and young Gojo, both voiced by Ayase, became a popular point of discussion among fans who noted similarities in the characters' designs and personalities. Ayase's performance received praise from Yoshihiro Togashi himself. The author commented positively on her Twitter account about how carefully she portrayed Killua's sensitive side, which came as a surprise and honor to Ayase. She has mentioned enjoying the anime since her childhood, even cosplaying as characters like Gon or Naruto Uzumaki from another series. However, she expressed uncertainty about whether she might get a chance to portray Killua again, given that the manga shifted focus to other characters as Killua and Gon's storyline concluded its main arc. Christina V., whose full name is Cristina Valenzuela, provided the English voice for Killua in the 2011 series. This dub was produced by Viz Media and broadcast in the United States on Adult Swim's Toonami programming block from April 2016 to June 2019. Christina V. has spoken about initially being unaware of the series until she was cast, which piqued her interest in the story. She originally auditioned for 3 characters, including Gon, Killua, and Kurapika, and was accepted for Killua. V has commented on the character's complexity, noting that while Killua comes across as a happy child, he has a notable dark side as a result of his family upbringing. She mentioned seeing cosplayers of Killua and Gon at fan conventions, attracted especially because the cosplayers were always duos, reflecting the inseparable nature of the characters' friendship. The 2 anime adaptations differ in several notable ways beyond just voice casting. The 1999 series, directed by Kazuhiro Furuhashi, had a total of 62 episodes broadcast on Fuji Television from October 16, 1999, to March 31, 2001. The series closely followed the manga but made adjustments for a younger audience, lessening some violence and adding occasional filler episodes. After the initial run concluded partway through the York New City arc, 3 separate OVA series totaling 30 episodes were produced from 2002 to 2004 to complete that arc and adapt the Greed Island storyline. The 2011 series, directed by Hiroshi Kujina, ran for 148 episodes on Nippon Television from October 2, 2011, to September 24, 2014. This adaptation started the story from the beginning rather than continuing from where the 1999 series left off. It maintained a faster pace, sometimes adapting 4 to 5 manga chapters per episode compared to the typical 2 chapters. The 2011 version is notable for its fidelity to the source material and for adapting the Chimera Ant and Chairman election arcs, which had not been animated previously. Visual differences between the adaptations are apparent. The 1999 series has an older animation style with darker color palettes and a grittier tone. The 2011 series features modern animation techniques with brighter colors and smoother movement. Killua's eye color changed between versions, appearing green in parts of the 1999 adaptation and blue in 2011, matching the manga more closely. Both adaptations have their advocates among fans. Those who grew up with the 1999 series often feel nostalgic attachment to its aesthetic and pacing. Others prefer the 2011 version for its completeness and production quality. Both are valid ways to experience Killua's story. 2 theatrical films have also featured Killua. Hunter x Hunter: Phantom Rouge was released on January 12, 2013, produced by Madhouse. The film centered around Gon and his friends' efforts to retrieve Kurapika's eyes, which were stolen by Omokage, a character who was Hisoka's predecessor in the Phantom Troop. The story was based on an unpublished manga that Togashi had written approximately 10 years earlier. At the Japanese box office, Phantom Rouge earned over $12 million. The second film, Hunter x Hunter: The Last Mission, was released on December 27, 2013. This movie focused somewhat on Netero and the dark secrets behind his past as Gon and his friends protected a fighting arena from a group called Shadow, the Hunter Association's former Black Ops squad. The film grossed approximately 850 million yen in Japan. Killua appears in both films, though they exist somewhat outside the main storyline. Interestingly, his skateboard makes a brief appearance in The Last Mission, a callback to his early characterization in the series. Beyond anime and manga, Killua has appeared in various video games. These include mobile games, console titles, and crossover fighting games like Jump Superstars and its sequels. A more recent game, Hunter x Hunter: Nen Times Impact, features Killua as a playable character alongside other series favorites. The popularity of Killua Zoldyck among fans has been remarkable and consistent. He has appeared in first place in the series' first 2 popularity polls, demonstrating his strong appeal to readers. In Funimation's Decade of Anime Fan Poll, he was one of 5 recipients for the Best Boys of the Decade category. An Anitrends poll also voted him as one of the best male characters from the 2010s. Critics have praised his characterization extensively. The character arc in which he overcomes his brooding personality and psychological conditioning to become devoted to Gon has been highlighted as one of the strongest elements of the series. Reviewers have noted how his transformation from a manipulated weapon into a compassionate, self-aware protector represents one of the most emotionally satisfying arcs in anime. Comparisons have been drawn between Killua and Satoru Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen due to physical and personality similarities. When Maria Ise was cast to portray the younger Gojo in a flashback during Jujutsu Kaisen's 2nd season, fans noted that the popular comparison had come to life through casting. Gij Akutami, the author of Jujutsu Kaisen, has acknowledged being influenced by Killua's character, particularly by the deteriorated state Gon was brought to after sacrificing himself to defeat Neferpitou. Killua has also been the subject of extensive cosplay within the anime fandom. His distinctive appearance, with the silver hair and casual clothing, makes him relatively approachable for cosplayers while still being recognizable. Convention floors regularly feature pairs of cosplayers dressed as Gon and Killua together. The character has influenced other manga artists as well. Some have based characters on Killua, whether as homage or unconscious influence. His archetype, the skilled prodigy with a dark background who finds redemption through friendship, has become a recognizable pattern that other creators have explored in their own ways. Now let us return to the quieter details of Killua's world, the small facts that flesh out his existence and make him feel real. Killua has a pronounced sweet tooth. He loves everything sugary and has shown particular fondness for chocolate. His favorite snacks include chocolate balls and chocolate robots, specific products within the Hunter x Hunter world. During his first time at Heaven's Arena, he spent almost 200 million jenny, the in-universe currency, on snacks alone. This detail humanizes him, reminding us that beneath the assassin training and deadly abilities, he is still a child with a child's pleasures. His susceptibility to gambling emerged during the Greed Island arc. When faced with slot machines that could yield valuable in-game items, Killua became fixated, risking his life for big rewards and only stopping when Biscuit physically intervened. This impulsive streak contrasts with his usual analytical nature and suggests that even the most disciplined individuals have their weaknesses. Killua is left-handed, a detail that observant fans have noted from his fighting style and everyday actions. This small characteristic adds to his uniqueness without being emphasized in the narrative. His intelligence extends beyond combat analysis. Killua is knowledgeable about various topics including technology, gaming, and general information. This suggests that his assassin training included broad education to prepare him for missions that might require understanding diverse subjects. He can drive cars and airships, skills that prove useful during various arcs. When sleeping, Killua keeps more of his brain awake than normal people do. This is a result of his training, allowing him to remain alert to danger even while resting. Assassins cannot afford deep sleep in potentially hostile environments. His footsteps are nearly silent. Melody, whose Nin ability grants her extraordinarily acute hearing, remarked that she could barely detect Killua's footsteps even when he was running beside her. This level of stealth is the product of years of practice, essential for an assassin who must approach targets without detection. Killua can dislocate his joints at will, allowing him to escape from bindings or contort his body in ways that would be impossible for others. He demonstrated this ability by dislocating his shoulders, elbows, wrists, and fingers to free himself from Maki's threads during the York News City arc. This skill, while painful for anyone else, is routine for someone trained from childhood to endure discomfort. His claws, which he can extend from his fingernails by sharpening them into points, are capable of piercing most materials. He used them most famously to remove Jonas' heart during the Hunter examination. The claws represent the lethal potential that always exists within Killua, the killer underneath the cheerful exterior. The rhythm echo technique allows Killua to create afterimages of his body through a varying cadence of steps. By moving in a specific pattern, he can make it appear as though there are multiple versions of himself, confusing opponents and making him harder to target. This technique was developed as part of Zoldyck assassination training. Another technique, the Snake Awakens, involves Killua using his flexibility and speed to strike from unexpected angles, mimicking the unpredictable movement of a snake. These assassination arts demonstrate that the Zoldyck training includes techniques beyond simple physical conditioning. Killua's Nen abilities deserve further exploration. As a transmuter, his affinity lies in changing the quality of his aura to mimic other substances or properties. He chose electricity based on his childhood experiences with electrical torture. The logic is grimly practical. He had already developed resistance to electricity, so transmuting his aura into electrical current allowed him to use attacks that wouldn't harm himself. Lightning Palm was his first electrical technique, delivered by touching an opponent with both hands and shoving them backward while releasing an electric shock. The technique stuns opponents and can incapacitate those without sufficient resistance. Thunderbolt, known in Japanese as Narukami, represents an evolution of his abilities. Killua can project a bolt of lightning from his hands, striking opponents from a distance. The Japanese name comes from a famous kabuki play, Narukami Fudo Kitayama Zakura, in which the character Narukami transforms into a thunder god at the end of the fourth act. This cultural reference adds depth to the technique's naming. Godspeed, or Kanmura in Japanese, stands as Killua's ultimate technique. Developed during his fight against the Orthos siblings, a pair of chimera and fish-like creatures, Godspeed transforms his aura into a field capable of transmitting electrical impulses directly to his muscles, bypassing his nervous system entirely. The two components of Godspeed serve different purposes. Whirlwind, Shippujinrai in Japanese, allows Killua to sense his opponent's movements and have his body react automatically. This effectively removes the delay between perceiving a threat and responding to it. In combat, even fractions of a second matter, and Whirlwind eliminates that gap entirely. Speed of Lightning, Denko Seka in Japanese, allows Killua to move his body according to his own will at extreme velocities. Rather than automatic reactions, this component gives him conscious control over high-speed movement. The combination of automatic defense and deliberate offense makes Godspeed remarkably versatile. The limitation of Godspeed involves charge. Killua needs to absorb electricity to power his techniques. He has done this through tasers and electrical sockets. If he overuses his abilities without recharging, he runs out of power and must take time to restore it. This constraint prevents Godspeed from being an unlimited advantage. During the palace invasion, Killua used Godspeed to confront Mentatha-Yupi. The royal guard was vastly superior in raw power, but Killua's speed allowed him to strike repeatedly while avoiding counterattacks. Yupi later acknowledged that Killua's attacks, while individually weak compared to his durability, accumulated damage over time. More importantly, Killua's interference disrupted Yupi's ability to assist the king, contributing to the overall success of the operation. Yupi stated that Killua in Godspeed possessed less than 10% of his raw power. This sounds dismissive, but given that Yupi was one of the 3 royal guards with power comparable to the strongest human fighters, having even a fraction of such strength represents a tremendous achievement for a human teenager. The Zoldyck family itself presents a fascinating context for understanding Killua. Each generation has produced exceptional assassins, and the family traces its lineage back through many generations. Maha Zoldyck, Killua's great-great-grandfather, is the oldest known member and reportedly still active as an assassin despite his advanced age. He once fought Isaac Netero in their youth, suggesting he stands among the top fighters in the series' history. Zeno Zoldyck, Killua's grandfather, is a transmuter like his grandson, though he is also proficient in emission. His Nen abilities include Dragon Head and Dragon Lance, which shape his aura into dragon forms for both offense and transportation. Zeno is said to genuinely love Killua and is noted for being relatively soft on him compared to how he treats others. He has a long-standing relationship with Netero, having taken on questionable jobs for the Hunter Association over the years. Silva Zoldyck, Killua's father, is a highly skilled Nen user classified as an emitter. He possesses immense physical strength and has faced formidable opponents, including members of the Phantom Troop. Silva's approach to assassination is businesslike and risk-averse. He treats the profession as a trade rather than a passion. His decision to let Killua leave the estate, conditional on the promise never to betray friends, showed a pragmatism that differed from the expectations of total obedience. The Zoldyck butlers and servants also play roles in Killua's story. Goto, the head butler, served the family with absolute loyalty and tested Gon and his friends with a coin game before allowing them to wait for Killua. Canary, a young female apprentice butler, guarded the estate's outer perimeter and formed a brief connection with Gon. Sabone and Amain monitored Killua during his mission to save Gon with Iluka, reporting back to the family while also providing a degree of protection. Illumi's influence on Killua deserves particular attention. As the eldest son, Illumi played a large role in helping Silva raise Killua. He became controlling and possessive, viewing his younger brother as a possession to be molded rather than a person with independent desires. Illumi's psychological manipulation included telling Killua repeatedly that he was incapable of having friends, that his nature as an assassin precluded genuine connection. The needle Illumi implanted in Killua's brain was a physical manifestation of this control. It forced Killua to retreat from uncertain battles, to prioritize self-preservation over all other considerations. This programming contradicted the loyalty and protectiveness Killua developed toward his friends. The internal conflict between Illumi's conditioning and Killua's genuine feelings created much of the tension in his character arc. When Killua removed the needle, he was not merely removing an object from his skull. He was rejecting Illumi's definition of who he was meant to be. The action represented self-determination, the choice to define himself rather than accepting the identity others imposed upon him. Illumi's desire to control Iluka paralleled his possessiveness toward Killua. He saw Nanaka's wish-granting power as something to be exploited and Killua's unique relationship with her as a threat to his own influence. During the chairman election arc, Illumi pursued Killua and Iluka with clear intent to either control them or eliminate the threat they represented. Killua ultimately stood against his brother directly. He declared Illumi his enemy and made clear that any attempt to harm Iluka would be met with absolute resistance. This confrontation demonstrated how far Killua had come from the obedient younger brother who couldn't defy Illumi's commands during the Hunter examination. Iluka's relationship with Killua provides one of the warmest elements of his story. While the rest of the family feared Nanaka and treated Iluka as dangerous, Killua loved her unconditionally. He visited her when others wouldn't. He spoke to her as a person rather than as a threat. Nanika, the entity within Aluka, responded to this love. The rules that governed her power, the dangerous conditions that made her wishes so costly, did not apply when Killua asked. Theories vary about why this exception exists. Perhaps Nanika recognized that Killua's requests came from genuine care. Perhaps love itself altered the metaphysical rules. The series does not provide definitive answers, leaving room for interpretation. The moment when Killua apologized to Nanika for being a bad brother, for asking her never to come out again, stands as one of the most emotionally affecting scenes in the entire series. Nanika's forgiveness was immediate and total. The exchange revealed Killua's capacity for vulnerability, his ability to acknowledge when he had done wrong, and the depth of love that existed between the siblings. Traveling with Aluka at the series' end represents Killua's resolution. He chose to dedicate himself to someone who needed protection and companionship. He stepped away from the path of adventure that had defined his friendship with Gon, accepting that different relationships require different kinds of commitment. His farewell to Gon was not sad, not really. They had both grown. They would both continue to grow, just in different directions. The world of Hunter x Hunter contains many locations that feature in Killua's journey. Whale Island, Gon's home, represents the pastoral innocence that Killua never experienced. Heaven's Arena, with its 251 floors of combat, was where Killua spent formative years and later learned the basics of Nin. Yordnu's city, vast and metropolitan, hosted the dangerous intersection of their path with the Phantom Troop. Greed Island, existing within Nin as a fully realized virtual world, served as a training ground and adventure. The Republic of East Gorto and NGL, the settings for the Chimera and Arc, represented perhaps the greatest dangers the characters faced. NGL, which stood for Neo-Green Life, was a nation where the population rejected modern technology and lived simpler lives. This isolationism provided cover for the Chimera ant infestation to develop undetected until it became a crisis. The Hunter Association, the organization that grants Hunter licenses and coordinates Hunter activities, served as the backdrop for much of the series' structure. Isaac Netero led the association until his death during the Chimera ant crisis. The subsequent election of a new chairman drove the final major arc in which Killua appeared prominently. Throughout these settings, Killua moved with growing confidence and capability. His journey took him from a boy who ran away from home seeking nothing in particular to a young man who knew exactly what he wanted and had the strength to pursue it. The themes embedded in Killua's story resonate with many viewers. The tension between family obligation and personal identity speaks to universal experiences of defining oneself against expectations. The possibility of change, of overcoming conditioning and trauma to become someone different, offers hope. The power of friendship to transform and save, demonstrated repeatedly through Gon and Killua's bond, affirms the value of connection. Killua's darkness is never erased or forgotten. He killed people. He enjoyed killing, at times. The assassin within him remains, available when needed. But that darkness no longer defines him. He chose to be more than what he was made to be. That choice, renewed with every decision to protect rather than destroy, to connect rather than isolate, represents his ongoing victory. The imagery of light appears throughout his relationship with Gon. In one of the most quoted scenes, Killua tells Gon that he is light itself, sometimes too bright to look at directly. He asks if he can still stay by Gon's side. The question reveals insecurity, a fear that his darkness makes him unworthy of such brightness. But he stays. He makes himself worthy through action. Gon, for his part, never wavered in his acceptance of Killua. He pursued Killua to the Zoldyck estate without hesitation. He trusted Killua with his life repeatedly. He never judged his friend for being a killer or for coming from a family of killers. This unconditional acceptance provided the foundation Killua needed to build a different sense of self. The two saved each other in different ways. Gon showed Killua that friendship was possible, that connection could exist outside the transactional relationships of the assassination world. Killua, in turn, often served as Gon's anchor, the voice of caution and strategy that tempered Gon's impulsiveness. When Gon's rage threatened to consume him during the Chimera Ant arc, Killua was there to witness, to support, and ultimately to heal. Some viewers have noted that Killua sometimes seems like the true protagonist of Hunter x Hunter, particularly in later arcs. Gon's role diminished as the story progressed, while Killua's development continued to deepen. The election arc focused heavily on Killua's mission to save Gon using a Luca, placing him at the narrative's center. Whether protagonist or deuteragonist, Killua's importance to the story is undeniable. He is the character who changes most significantly, who faces the greatest internal struggles, and who achieves the most satisfying resolution. His journey from trained killer to protective brother embodies the series' themes of choice, growth, and the possibility of redemption. The manga continues, with Togashi returning from hiatuses periodically to advance the story. As of recent chapters, Killua has not appeared directly, with the narrative focusing on other characters and storylines. Fans await his return, hoping for more glimpses of his travels with Aluka, more development of his abilities, more interactions with the cast of characters who have come to feel like family. Togashi's health issues have been well documented. He has struggled with severe back pain for years, at times unable to sit in a chair for extended periods. These physical challenges have necessitated the irregular publication schedule that has characterized Hunter x Hunter's later years. In May 2022, Togashi created a Twitter account where he began posting updates about his work, gaining millions of followers almost immediately. Fans interpret every post, every glimpse of manuscript pages, as signs that more chapters are coming. The dedication of the fanbase speaks to the quality of Togashi's creation. Killua, as a central part of that creation, has earned devoted admirers who analyze his every scene, celebrate his victories, and empathize with his struggles. Fan art, fan fiction, discussions, and tributes proliferate across the internet, testifying to the lasting impact of his character. What makes Killua endure in memory? Perhaps it is the combination of competence and vulnerability. He can kill effortlessly, yet he doubts his worth. He moves faster than perception, yet he stands still when facing his brother's expectations. He is powerful and uncertain, deadly and gentle, scarred and hopeful. These contradictions make him feel real. Few of us have trained as assassins or developed electrical superpowers, but many of us know what it means to struggle against the expectations placed upon us. Many of us understand the fear of not being good enough for those we love. Many of us have experienced the liberation of choosing our own path. Killua's story is about becoming. Not becoming powerful, though he does. Not becoming skilled, though he does. But becoming himself. The Killua who appears at the end of the election arc is fundamentally the same person who appeared during the Hunter examination, yet he is transformed. He knows who he is now. He knows who he wants to protect. He knows that he is capable of love and worthy of being loved. That knowledge was hard-won. It came through pain, through confrontation, through the literal removal of control from his own brain. But it came. And because it came for Killua, perhaps it can come for others who feel trapped by circumstances, by family, by the versions of themselves that others insist they must be. As we continue drifting through Killua's world, let us turn to the smaller moments that give texture to his existence. The details that fans notice, collect, and cherish. Killua's examiner number during the 287th Hunter examination was 99. This was the number pinned to his chest as he progressed through the various phases, appearing in countless panels and frames. When he took the 288th Hunter examination after being disqualified from the first, his number was 1219. These numbers, while arbitrary, become part of how fans identify specific moments in his journey. His height of 158 centimeters places him as relatively short for his age, though not unusually so. Standing next to Gon, the two are similar in stature, emphasizing their status as peers and partners. As the series progresses and time passes, both characters grow taller, though the manga does not always make this explicit in the artwork. The Zoldyck family maintains a strict hierarchy and training regimen passed down through generations. Killua received what is called the traditional Zoldyck training, which includes physical conditioning, combat techniques, resistance building, and mental preparation. This training is not standardized for all children. It varies based on each child's potential and the family's assessment of their future role. Killua was designated as the heir to the family, a position that came with both privilege and pressure. Being heir meant receiving the most intensive training and highest expectations. It also meant bearing the weight of family legacy, the responsibility of eventually leading the world's most feared assassination organization. His decision to abandon this role was not merely personal rebellion but a rejection of an entire future that had been mapped out for him. The family's wealth is considerable but rarely emphasized in the narrative. Assassinations at the Zoldyck level command astronomical fees, and the family has accumulated resources over many generations. This wealth provides for the vast estate, the numerous servants, the specialized equipment, and the comfortable lifestyle that forms the backdrop of their deadly profession. Killua's relationship with money reflects this background. He spent nearly 200 million jenny on suites at Heaven's Arena without apparent concern. He did not understand, at first, the value that others placed on money or the struggles that came with poverty. His friendship with characters like Leorio, who entered the Hunter examination specifically for financial reasons, exposed him to different perspectives on wealth and necessity. The jenny currency in Hunter times Hunter roughly parallels the Japanese yen in value, according to various estimates by fans. This would make Killua's candy expenditure equivalent to approximately $2 million, an absurd sum spent on temporary pleasures by a child with no concept of scarcity. During the Hunter examination, Killua demonstrated his capabilities in ways both subtle and dramatic. In the first phase, an extended run led by Examiner Saditz, Killua used his skateboard initially before abandoning it to run alongside Gon. He was among the few examinees who showed no signs of fatigue during the ordeal, a testament to his physical conditioning. In the second phase, which involved cooking, Killua showed less competence. Assassination training apparently did not include culinary skills, and his attempts at preparing food proved unsuccessful. This failure humanized him, demonstrating that even prodigies have gaps in their knowledge. The Trick Tower phase placed examinees in a tower filled with traps and challenges. Killua's group encountered prisoners who had been promised reduced sentences for defeating examinees. It was here that Killua faced Jonas the Dissector and ended him instantly. The contrast between Killua's youthful appearance and his lethal efficiency shocked other characters, establishing his capabilities unambiguously. The fourth phase involved hunting other examinees on Zevil Island. Each participant had to steal the badge of their assigned target, while protecting their own. Killua's approach to this phase was straightforward, using his superior skills to complete his objective without unnecessary complications. He spent much of this time worrying about Gon, who had chosen to confront the dangerous Hisoka directly. Hisoka, the mercurial magician with deadly abilities and ambiguous motives, played various roles throughout the series. He recognized both Gon and Killua as possessing tremendous potential and expressed interest in fighting them once they matured. His fascination was predatory but also appreciative, the interest of a true combatant in opponents who might one day prove worthy. Killua maintained appropriate wariness around Hisoka, understanding the danger he represented while occasionally accepting his assistance when objectives aligned. The relationship between Gon and Killua evolved naturally throughout their adventures. Initially drawn together by similarity in age and disposition, they developed genuine trust through shared experiences. They learned in together under Wing's guidance. They trained under Biscuit's demanding methods. They faced the Phantom Troop in York News City and the horrors of the Chimera Ant invasion. Killua often served as the strategic mind of the pair. While Gon led with instinct and determination, Killua analyzed situations, identified threats, and proposed approaches. Biscuit relied on him to organize their Greed Island cards and coordinate their tactics. During the palace invasion, Killua presided over strategic meetings despite being junior to experienced hunters like Knuckle. This analytical capability stemmed partly from his assassin training, which emphasized evaluating targets and situations before engaging. Killua learned to assess opponents' strengths and weaknesses at a glance, to identify tells that revealed their nature, to predict likely behaviors based on observed patterns. These skills translated well to broader strategic thinking. Gon's impulsiveness sometimes created tension with Killua's more cautious approach. During the Chimera Ant arc especially, Gon's single-minded focus on finding Kite and confronting Neferpitou concerned Killua deeply. He saw his friend spiraling towards something destructive but struggled to intervene effectively. Killua's own conditioning to avoid confrontation with stronger opponents, instilled by Illumi's needle, complicated his ability to support Gon when support was most needed. The resolution of Gon's crisis, when he transformed himself through an extreme and vowed to defeat Neferpitou, left Killua as witness to both the awesome power and terrible cost of his friend's choice. Gon achieved his goal but emerged a broken shell, alive but barely. Killua's response was not despair but determination. He would find a way to save his friend. This determination led him back to his family, back to the estate he had left behind, to retrieve Iluka. The confrontation that followed tested every aspect of his growth. He had to navigate family politics, outmaneuver his brilliant but controlling brother, protect his vulnerable sister, and heal his dying friend. He succeeded on all counts. The mechanics of Iluka's power, the rules governing Nanaka's wishes, added elements of horror and tension to the arc. When someone makes 3 wishes that are too demanding, the next person who fails to fulfill Iluka's requests dies along with their loved ones. The severity of the death toll scales with the size of the previous wish. A wish that healed a terminally ill person could result in dozens of deaths if the subsequent requests went unfulfilled. Killua's exception to these rules remained somewhat mysterious. When he asked Nanaka directly, using the phrase that indicated a command from him specifically, no conditions applied. The healing of Gon cost nothing, claimed no lives, triggered no dangerous requests. This exception made Killua simultaneously the safest person to interact with Iluka and potentially the most dangerous, as he alone could wield her power without consequence. The Zoldyck family's response to this revelation was predictable. Illumi wanted control of Iluka's power for his own purposes. Silva and the others wanted Iluka contained or eliminated as a threat. Only Killua wanted Iluka to be free, to live as a person rather than a weapon or a danger. His victory in the election arc was not merely the healing of Gon but the assertion of his own will against his entire family. He established himself as Iluka's protector, someone willing to become an enemy of the Zoldicks if necessary to ensure her safety. This stance required courage that went beyond physical bravery. It meant potentially sacrificing everything he had ever known for the sake of someone he loved. The subsequent departure with Iluka represented Killua's choice of family, not the one he was born into but the one he created. He chose to be Iluka's brother in truth, to give her the experiences and love that had been denied during her imprisonment. Whatever adventures might come, whatever dangers might arise, they would face them together. Gon's reaction to Killua's departure demonstrated the maturity of their friendship. He did not protest or demand that Killua stay. He understood that Killua had his own path to follow, his own responsibilities to honor. Their farewell was warm but not dramatic, the parting of friends who knew they would meet again. The 13th Hunter Chairman election itself provided backdrop for these personal dramas. Following Netero's death, the Hunter Association needed new leadership. The election process brought together hunters from around the world, including characters who had played roles throughout the series. The political maneuvering and voting procedures added complexity while Killua's more personal mission unfolded. Leorio's moment during the election, when he punched Jing freaks on live television for abandoning Gon, provided cathartic humor. Jing's absentee parenting had been a recurring theme, and seeing him face consequences, even briefly, satisfied something for viewers who had followed Gon's quest. Killua witnessed this moment with amusement, glad that someone was holding Jing accountable. The recovery of Gon and his eventual reunion with Jing brought the main storyline to a satisfying, if open-ended, conclusion. Gon achieved his goal of finding his father. He learned truths about Jing and himself. He faced the consequences of his choices during the Chimera Ant arc. And then, with Killua having already departed, he began whatever came next alone. The Dark Continent arc, which followed in the manga, has not featured Killua prominently. The story shifted focus to other characters, particularly Kurapika and his ongoing struggle against the Phantom Troop. new threats emerged, including the journey to the Dark Continent itself, a place that holds creatures and dangers beyond normal comprehension. Nanaka's origin from this place suggests that Killua's path may eventually intersect with this storyline, but as of the current manga chapters, this has not occurred. Fans speculate about Killua's return. Will he and Aluka encounter threats that draw them into the larger narrative? Will his unique relationship with Nanaka become relevant to Dark Continent exploration? Will he reunite with Gon for new adventures? These questions remain unanswered, leaving room for anticipation and imagination. The techniques and abilities Killua might develop in the future also inspire discussion. His god speed, while powerful, has limitations. Could he develop new applications of his electrical transmutation? Could he combine his abilities with other nin categories, as some advanced users do? The potential for growth remains significant. His physical capabilities continue to improve as he matures. The lean build of his childhood has given way to more muscular definition. His base speed and strength likely continue to increase with age and experience. The gap between himself and true powerhouses like the Chimera and Royal Guards may narrow over time. The psychological development completed during the election arc established a stable foundation for future growth. Without Alumi's needle, without the compulsion to flee, Killua can engage opponents based on his own assessment rather than programmed fear. He can choose his battles and commit to them fully. His relationship with Aluka also provides motivation. Protecting her gives his life purpose beyond mere survival or self-improvement. He has someone to come home to, someone who depends on him, someone whose happiness matters more than his own comfort. This responsibility grounds him, while also raising the stakes of any danger he might face. The themes of Hunter x Hunter extend beyond individual character arcs. The series explores what it means to be human, the nature of monstrosity, the possibility of change, the corrupting influence of power, and the redemptive potential of connection. Killua embodies many of these themes simultaneously. He was raised to be a monster, a killing machine without conscience or attachment. He became something else through deliberate choice and the influence of a friend who saw him as more than his training. His humanity was not given but claimed, not inherent but constructed through accumulated decisions. This process continues throughout his story, each choice reinforcing or challenging the identity he has built. The Chimera Ants presented a mirror to these themes. The king, Meruem, was born as a monster in truth, a creature designed to consume and dominate. Yet through his relationship with Komugi, a blind girl who played a board game called Gungi, Meruem discovered something resembling humanity. His final moments, spent playing Gungi with Komugi as poison claimed them both, represented a kind of redemption that paralleled and contrasted with Killua's arc. Both Killua and Meruem were born into roles that defined them as killers. Both found connection that expanded their understanding of themselves. Both chose to be something other than what they were created to be. The difference lay in circumstances and time. Killua had years to develop and change. Meruem had only months. Both journeys were valid, both transformations meaningful. The power systems in Hunter x Hunter, particularly Nin, provide structure for combat and conflict while allowing tremendous creativity. Unlike some battle manga where power levels escalate infinitely, Nin emphasizes technique, strategy, and personal development over raw strength. A weaker user with the right ability and preparation can defeat a stronger opponent. Killua's Nin abilities reflect his personality and history. Electricity, born from torture, became his weapon. Speed, essential for assassination, became his defining characteristic. The yo-yos, gifts from his family, were incorporated into his fighting style. Everything about his combat approach tells his story. The training arcs throughout the series demonstrated how power is developed rather than simply granted. Gon and Killua earned their abilities through exhaustive practice, creative thinking, and painful experience. Nothing came easily. This emphasis on effort made their victories feel earned and their capabilities believable within the fiction. Biscuit's role as trainer highlighted the importance of mentorship in this world. Wing taught the basics. Biscuit refined them into excellence. Her ability to identify potential and cultivate it made her invaluable despite appearing as a mere child. The reveal of her true form, a massively muscular woman who had maintained her skills over decades, subverted expectations entertainingly while reinforcing that appearances in this world often deceive. Killua's own potential remains partially unrealized. Characters throughout the series have noted his exceptional talent, suggesting that he could become one of the strongest in the world if he continues to develop. Whether this potential will be explored in future manga chapters remains unknown, but the foundation has been laid. The friendship between Gon and Killua has been compared to other famous manga partnerships. The dynamic of the cheerful, straightforward protagonist paired with the darker, more complex deuteragonist appears across many works. What distinguishes Gon and Killua's relationship is its equal emphasis on both characters and the genuine mutual dependence they develop. Neither Gon nor Killua is complete without the other, at least not during the main story. Gon provides purpose and brightness. Killua provides caution and strategy. They complement each other's weaknesses and amplify each other's strengths. The eventual separation, while necessary for their individual growth, changes this dynamic fundamentally. Some readers have argued that Killua's devotion to Gon bordered on unhealthy, that he subordinated his own desires too completely to his friend's goals. There is evidence for this interpretation, particularly in moments when Killua's sense of self-worth seemed entirely dependent on his usefulness to Gon. The removal of Illumi's needle and the development of his relationship with Iluka address this imbalance, giving Killua independent sources of purpose and value. Others argue that such devotion was precisely what Killua needed during his development, that without something to believe in outside himself, he might have succumbed to the darkness of his upbringing. Gon served as an anchor, a reason to become better, a living example of a different way to exist. The relationship was therapeutic in some sense, allowing Killua to experience normalcy through proximity. The truth likely incorporates elements of both perspectives. Killua's devotion to Gon was sometimes excessive but also transformative. He needed to learn how to care for someone before he could learn how to care for himself. Gon provided the opportunity, Iluka provided the completion. As we begin to approach the end of this journey through Killua's world, let us return to the quiet facts that round out his existence. He can see in the dark, an ability developed through training in environments without light. Assassins often work in darkness, and vision adaptation would be essential for such operations. He knows when he is being watched even from great distances, a form of heightened awareness that borders on supernatural. This sense allowed him to detect surveillance and respond appropriately. His blood type, A, is considered in Japanese culture to be associated with organized, careful, and somewhat anxious personalities. Whether Togashi intended this cultural shorthand is unknown, but the correlation is interesting. The hexagram design on Killua's yo-yos, visible in the manga, was changed to a pentagram in some anime adaptations. This adjustment may have been made for cultural or religious sensitivity reasons, as the hexagram has associations with various faiths including Judaism. The pentagram, while also carrying religious significance, was apparently deemed more acceptable in the animated context. Killua's favorite color, his preferred foods beyond sweets, his opinions on music or art, these details remain unexplored in the source material. Togashi's focus lay on character development relevant to the narrative rather than exhaustive personal profiles. This leaves room for fans to imagine and interpret based on what is shown. The scrapped ending for the 1999 anime series, never produced, apparently involved Killua falling into villainy under his father's influence, and, after a 7-year time skip, traveling to Whale Island to assassinate Gon and Jing. This dark alternate version was never realized, and the anime instead concluded without definitive resolution. The 2011 series adapted the story more completely, reaching a natural stopping point after the election arc. Character popularity polls in Japan consistently placed Killua at or near the top. His appeal transcends cultural boundaries, resonating with audiences internationally. The combination of cool abilities, emotional depth, and relatable struggles creates a character who satisfies on multiple levels. Merchandise featuring Killua includes figures, clothing, accessories, and countless other products. His distinctive appearance makes him easily recognizable and marketable. The white hair and blue eyes, the casual clothing, the yo-yos in combat, all become visual shorthand instantly identifiable to fans. Fan communities have created extensive content analyzing his character, celebrating his moments, and imagining additional stories. The depth of engagement speaks to the success of Togashi's creation. Killua inspires not just passive appreciation but active participation in the culture surrounding the series. And now we reach the end of our journey. 101 facts about Killua Zoldyck, woven into a tapestry of story and context. We have traveled from Kukuru Mountain to Whale Island, from Heaven's Arena to the Palace of the Chimera and King. We have met his family, his friends, his enemies. We have seen him grow from a trained killer seeking something undefined to a young man who knows exactly what he values and why. The stars outside your window, if you have one, continue their distant burning. The world continues its quiet turning. And somewhere in the realm of fiction, a silver-haired boy walks beside his sister, protecting her from whatever comes next. Killua Zoldyck was born into darkness. He was shaped by pain and conditioned for cruelty. He killed before he understood what death truly meant. He was told he could never have friends, never be anything but an assassin, never escape the path laid out for him. He proved those claims wrong. Through the simple, stubborn act of caring about someone else, through choosing friendship when isolation was safer, through removing the needle that controlled his mind and standing against his family when they threatened what he loved, Killua became more than what he was made to be. That transformation is not complete. It may never be complete. Growth continues for as long as life does. But the direction is set. The person Killua is becoming differs fundamentally from the person he was designed to be. That difference represents victory, not of strength over strength, but of will over conditioning, of choice over fate. If you've stayed awake this long, you know more about Killua Zoldyck than you did when we began. You know about his family, his abilities, his friends, and his struggles. You know about the people who created him, the voices who brought him to life, the medium through which his story was told. Perhaps some of this knowledge will stay with you. Perhaps you'll think of Killua when you see silver hair or blue electricity, when you hear about assassins or hunters, when you consider the question of what we become despite how we were raised. Or perhaps you drifted off long ago, and these words have become a gentle current carrying you deeper into sleep. That's good too. That was always the purpose. Tonight, as you rest, stories continue somewhere. Characters grow and change in the minds of their creators. Readers and viewers discover them for the first time, while longtime fans revisit familiar moments. The cycle of creation and appreciation continues across time zones and languages. Killua is part of that cycle now. Part of the great accumulation of human storytelling that connects us across distances and differences. A fictional boy who felt real enough to matter. Thank you for spending this time with me, drifting through a world of hunters and hidden powers. I hope you sleep well and dream softly. The silver-haired boy walks on, somewhere beyond the boundaries of sleep and waking. Good night. But wait. Before sleep claims you entirely, let us linger a little longer in this world. There are more quiet corners to explore, more gentle details to discover. The hunter examination itself deserves further exploration. This test, which brought Killua into Gon's life, operates under rules that vary dramatically from year to year. The Hunter Association designs each examination to be essentially unique, ensuring that no amount of prior preparation guarantees success. Examiners change, phases change, even the fundamental nature of challenges changes. The 287th Hunter examination that Killua entered had several distinct phases. The first involved following the examiner Sadits through an underground tunnel and into a marshland filled with dangerous creatures. The path was intentionally long, testing the stamina and determination of applicants. Many dropped out from exhaustion alone, their dreams of becoming hunters ending not in combat but in simple physical failure. The second phase tested culinary skills, requiring applicants to prepare dishes that satisfied the examiners Menchi and Bahara. Bahara asked for roasted pork from the Great Stamp, a giant pig known for being dangerous. Most applicants managed this task. Menchie, however, demanded sushi, a dish unfamiliar to many participants. When no one could satisfy her standards, Chairman Netero intervened, changing the challenge to obtaining eggs from spider eagle nests in a nearby ravine. Killua navigated these challenges with relative ease. His training had prepared him for physical endurance, and while his cooking skills were unremarkable, the modified egg challenge posed no threat to someone who could dive into a deep ravine and climb back out carrying delicate cargo. The third phase took place in Trick Tower, a massive structure where examinees had to reach the bottom within 72 hours. The tower contained multiple paths, and the one Killua's group chose involved facing prisoners who were offered years off their sentences for defeating the young hunters. It was here that Killua's darker nature emerged most clearly, when he killed Jonas without hesitation or remorse. The fourth phase, on Zevil Island, tested hunting skills and survival instinct. Each applicant was assigned a target whose badge they needed to claim while protecting their own. The phase lasted 7 days, providing ample time for strategy, ambush, and endurance. Killua completed his objective efficiently, demonstrating the practical application of his assassination training in a context that valued results over methods. The final phase involved one-on-one matches arranged in a tournament bracket. However, the rules favored losers in an unusual way. A single victory was sufficient to pass. Only those who surrendered or died in every match they fought would fail. This structure ensured that most remaining applicants would become hunters, as long as they showed some measure of capability. Killua's failure at this stage was artificial, the result of Illumi's manipulation rather than genuine defeat. Under his brother's psychological pressure, Killua killed Bedoro, an act that disqualified him immediately. The examiner Netero could not overlook such a blatant rule violation, even if he understood the circumstances that led to it. This manipulation revealed the extent of Illumi's control over Killua. Without any visible force or direct command, Illumi had brought his younger brother to heel simply through words and presence. The needle in Killua's brain amplified this influence. But even without it, years of conditioning had created pathways of obedience that were difficult to resist. The 288th Hunter examination, which Killua took after leaving Greed Island temporarily, provided contrast. By this point, Killua had grown significantly in both power and confidence. He demolished the competition so completely that he finished in an hour and a half, becoming the sole successful applicant from that particular session. The difference between his first and second attempts illustrated his development clearly. Hunter licenses grant significant privileges in the world of the series. Licensed hunters gain access to restricted areas, information, and resources unavailable to ordinary people. They can travel freely across most borders, use facilities reserved for Hunter Association members, and command respect from authorities and organizations worldwide. The license itself serves as currency in some circumstances, valued at millions of jenny on the black market. Beyond practical benefits, becoming a hunter represents a kind of achievement, a recognition of exceptional capability in some domain. There are many types of hunters, each specializing in different pursuits. Beast hunters track and study rare animals. Crime hunters pursue criminals and investigate wrongdoing. Treasure hunters seek valuable artifacts and hidden riches. Gourmet hunters search for rare ingredients and culinary experiences. Killua never declared a specialty. His license grants him hunter status without defining what kind of hunter he intends to be. Given his background, one might assume he would become something like a blacklist hunter, pursuing dangerous criminals using his assassination skills. But his journey suggests a different path, one focused on protection rather than pursuit, on caring for a looker rather than hunting anyone. The Hunter Association itself operates as a semi-autonomous organization with significant global influence. Founded by hunters who wanted to formalize their profession and create structures for cooperation, the association maintains its own governance, rules, and hierarchy. The chairman holds considerable power, setting policy and direction for the organization as a whole. Isaac Netero served as chairman for decades before his death during the Chimera Ant crisis. His leadership was characterized by personal strength rather than political maneuvering. Netero was simply too powerful for anyone to challenge directly, and his whimsical personality kept potential rivals uncertain of his intentions. His decision to confront the Chimera and King personally reflected both his sense of duty and his desire for a final challenge worthy of his abilities. The election following Netero's death brought the association's political dynamics into focus. Various factions supported different candidates, each with their own vision for the organization's future. The voting process required complex thresholds and multiple rounds, creating opportunities for strategy and alliance building. Paris Dunhill, who had served as Netero's vice chairman, emerged as a central figure during the election. His smiling demeanor concealed ambitions that others found difficult to read. His relationship with Netero had been complex, almost adversarial, yet they had worked together for years. Paris Dun represented one vision for the association's future, though his ultimate goals remained mysterious. The election ultimately resulted in Cheadle Yorkshire becoming chairman, though this outcome came after significant turmoil. The political machinations provided backdrop for Killua's more personal mission, illustrating how individual stories unfold within larger institutional contexts. Returning to Killua's personal history, his childhood on Kukuru Mountain shaped every aspect of who he became. The estate itself is remarkable, encompassing an entire mountain and the surrounding lands. The main mansion sits at the heart of this territory, protected by multiple layers of security including the testing gate, guard dogs of extraordinary size and power, and the formidable butler corps. Mike, the guard dog, deserves particular mention. This creature is so large and dangerous that it has reportedly killed many intruders over the years. The family considers Mike a pet, but visitors without authorization have no such friendly relationship with the beast. Even the tour buses that bring curious sightseers to the estate's outer perimeter know better than to test the security. The Butler Corps serves multiple functions beyond simple household service. They act as guards, servants, and sometimes trainers for the Zoldyck children. Their loyalty to the family is absolute, enforced through generations of service and unknown mechanisms. Goto, the head butler, was willing to die rather than allow harm to come to the family, and he engaged in complex games with visitors to test their worthiness before granting access. Canary, a young apprentice butler, showed warmth toward Gon that conflicted with her duties. She was moved by his determination to reach Killua and found herself unable to completely suppress her sympathy. This conflict revealed that the Butler Corps, while loyal, remained human in their responses and susceptible to genuine emotion. The Zoldyck estate's isolation serves both practical and symbolic purposes. Practically, it provides security through remoteness and defensibility. Symbolically, it represents the family's separation from normal society, their existence outside ordinary moral frameworks, their self-sufficient world where the only rules are those they create. Killua's departure from this world was not merely geographical. By leaving the estate, he left behind a way of life, a set of values, an understanding of himself. Each step away from Kukuru Mountain was a step towards something new, even if he didn't know what that something would be. The friendship between Gon and Killua developed through shared experience rather than shared background. They had almost nothing in common when they first met. Gon grew up on Whale Island, raised by his Aunt Mito in a small fishing community. His childhood was normal, even idyllic, filled with friends and nature and the simple pleasures of island life. He knew his father had abandoned him, but had processed this knowledge into motivation rather than resentment. Killua's childhood could not have been more different. Wealth without freedom, skill without purpose, family without love. He knew how to kill a person a dozen different ways before he knew how to make a friend. He had traveled the world on assignments, but had never simply explored for the joy of discovery. What united them was potential. Both Gon and Killua possessed exceptional capability that others recognized immediately. Examiners during the Hunter test noted their talent. Wing saw enough promise to teach them Nin despite initial reservations. Hisoka's interest marked them as future opponents worth watching. Biscuit's willingness to train them acknowledged what they might become with proper guidance. This shared potential created a kind of equality between them. Neither outclassed the other so completely as to create imbalance. They could train together, challenge each other, grow together. Their differing strengths complemented rather than competed, creating partnership rather than rivalry. The tests they faced together reinforced their bond. Heaven's Arena required them to fight independently but also to support each other between matches. Greed Island demanded cooperation in card collection and strategy. The Chimera Ant invasion placed them in situations where mutual reliance was essential for survival. Wing's role as their teacher established foundational knowledge they would build upon throughout their journeys. His dojo, located in a modest building away from the spectacle of Heaven's Arena, provided calm instruction amid the excitement of the tournament. Wing recognized that teaching Nin improperly could be dangerous, and initially tried to discourage the boys from learning too quickly. His concerns proved justified in some ways. Opening one's aura nodes, the process through which a person gains access to Nin, can be traumatic. There are two methods: the deliberate, gradual approach that Wing advocated, and the forced awakening where an experienced user attacks with Nin until the target's nodes open defensively. The latter method is faster but riskier, potentially causing lasting damage if the recipient isn't prepared. Gon and Killua learned through the gradual method initially, though their talent accelerated the process significantly. They learned Ten, the technique of containing aura, in remarkably short time. Killua mastered it in a single night, a feat that usually takes weeks or months. This rapid progress both justified Wing's decision to teach them and worried him about what might happen if they rushed into situations beyond their capability. The concept of Nin categories adds structure to the power system. Each person has a natural affinity for one of 6 categories, and while they can learn techniques from other categories, they will always be most efficient in their own. Water divination, a test involving a leaf floating on water in a glass, reveals which category a person belongs to. Different reactions indicate different affinities: leaf movement for enhancers, water taste change for transmuters, watercolor change for emitters, impurities appearing for conjurers, leaf movement in an unusual way for manipulators, and any other reaction for specialists. Killua's affinity as a transmuter means he excels at changing the quality of his aura. Transmuters can make their aura mimic substances or properties, and they tend to share certain personality traits: whimsical, deceptive, and prone to fickle behavior. Whether these correlations are causative or merely correlative remains unclear, but the pattern holds across many characters in the series. Gon's affinity as an enhancer means he excels at strengthening himself or objects. Enhancers tend to be simple, straightforward personalities who approach problems directly. The contrast between enhancement's straightforward power amplification and transmutation's transformative flexibility mirrors the personality differences between Gon and Killua. The training montages throughout the series, while sometimes abbreviated for pacing, emphasize that power is earned. Biscuit's methods involve relentless physical conditioning, Nin exercises, and combat practice. She pushed Gon and Killua to their limits repeatedly, understanding that growth came through exceeded boundaries rather than comfortable maintenance. Her Nin ability, piano massage, allowed her to reduce the sleep requirements of those she touched. By stimulating their bodies during brief rest periods, she could compress 8 hours of recovery into 30 minutes. This ability proved invaluable during intensive training periods, allowing Gon and Killua to maximize their practice time. The results of this training became evident during the confrontation with Genthru on Greed Island. Despite being outmatched in raw power and experience, Gon managed to defeat Genthru through strategy, preparation, and willingness to sacrifice his own hands to land the decisive blow. Killua's battle with Sub, one of Genthru's companions, similarly demonstrated growth from training. They had become capable of facing threats that would have overwhelmed them months earlier. The power scaling in Hunter x Hunter deserves comment for its relative restraint. While characters grow stronger over time, the series avoids the exponential escalation common in battle manga. The Chimera and Royal Guards represent a peak of power that even the strongest humans struggle to match. The king himself stood beyond nearly everyone, requiring Neteros per man's rose, a nuclear equivalent weapon, to defeat him. This ceiling creates meaningful stakes. Characters cannot simply train their way past any obstacle. Strategy, preparation, and sacrifice become necessary when raw power is insufficient. Killua's battle with Yuppie exemplified this. He could not defeat the royal guard through strength alone, but he could contribute meaningfully through speed and distraction. The themes of the Chimera Ant arc resonated beyond simple conflict. Questions of humanity, of what separates humans from monsters, ran throughout the narrative. The ants began as pure predators but developed complexity as they incorporated human DNA and memories. Some became more human than the humans who hunted them. Killua witnessed much of this complexity without being central to its resolution. His role was support, protection, and ultimately healing. He kept Gon alive when Gon's obsession threatened to consume him. He retrieved Aluka when Gon's sacrifice required miraculous intervention. He stood by his friend through the darkness and brought him back to the light. This supporting role might seem secondary, but it was essential. Without Killua, Gon would have died. Not from enemy action, but from his own choices. The transformation that destroyed Neferpitou also destroyed Gon's body, leaving him a withered shell that conventional medicine could not restore. Only Nanaka's power, access to Killua's unique relationship, could undo the damage. The responsibility Killua took upon himself by retrieving Aluka was enormous. He knew the dangers she represented. He knew his family would try to stop him. He knew that failure could mean his own death, Gon's death, and possibly many others if Nanaka's power went wrong. He accepted these risks because his friend needed him. This willingness to accept risk for others marked the completion of Killua's transformation. The boy who had been conditioned to prioritize self-preservation above all else chose to endanger himself for someone he loved. The needle's influence was gone, but more importantly, its message had been rejected. Killua decided that some things were worth dying for. The final scenes between Killua and Gon in the main story are quiet rather than dramatic. Gon, recovered and ready to meet his father, thanks Killua for everything. Killua, preparing to leave with Aluka, accepts this thanks without making it more than it needs to be. They part as friends who know they will meet again, without the melodrama of permanent farewell. This understated ending respects the maturity both characters have achieved. They no longer need to be together constantly to maintain their friendship. They have internalized what they've given each other, carrying those gifts forward into separate futures. The bond remains even as the paths diverge. For now, Killua travels with Aluka. We don't know where they are or what they've experienced since parting from Gon. The manga's focus has shifted elsewhere, leaving their story in a gentle suspension. Perhaps they've found quiet places where Aluka can experience normal life for the first time. Perhaps they've encountered new challenges that tested Killua's protective resolve. Perhaps they simply walk together, brother and sister, enjoying the freedom they've claimed. The open-ended nature of their situation allows imagination to fill the gaps. Fans create stories, artwork, and theories about what might happen next. Some imagine reunions with Gon. Others envision new adventures. Still others prefer to think of Killua and Aluka finding peace, traveling without urgency, experiencing the world together. Whatever comes next, Killua has established who he is. Not an assassin, though he retains those skills. Not merely a hunter, though he holds that license. He is a brother, a friend, a protector. He is someone who chose his own path against every expectation and force that tried to determine it for him. That choice defines him more than any ability or technique. The electricity, the speed, the combat prowess, these are tools. The decision to use them in service of love rather than obligation, that is the essence of who Killua has become. The night grows deeper, and perhaps your eyes have grown heavy. But if you're still here, still listening, there are a few more quiet thoughts to share before we part. Consider the nature of change itself, as embodied in Killua's journey. Change is not instantaneous, despite how stories sometimes portray it. Killua did not remove Illumi's needle and immediately become a different person. The transformation was gradual, built upon countless small decisions that accumulated over time. When he chose to approach Gon during the hunter examination, that was a small change. When he chose to stay with Gon after failing the exam, another small change. When he chose to train at Heaven's Arena instead of returning home, another. When he chose to enter Greed Island, to follow Gon into danger, to protect him during the Chimera Ant crisis, each choice added to the pattern. The needle's removal was dramatic, certainly. But it was possible because the groundwork had already been laid. Killua had spent years building an alternative identity, one where friendship mattered, where loyalty existed, where self-worth came from more than family expectation. The needle prevented him from acting fully on this identity in moments of crisis. Removing it allowed the person he had been becoming to finally emerge completely. This understanding of change has resonance beyond fiction. Many people struggle against conditioning, against messages received in childhood, against patterns of thought that no longer serve them. The hope that Killua's story offers is that change is possible, that conditioning can be overcome, that the person you choose to become can triumph over the person you were told to be. But the story also acknowledges that such change is difficult. It requires support, often from others who see potential that the conditioned mind cannot perceive in itself. Gon saw Killua as a friend when Killua had been told he couldn't have friends. This external validation provided the foundation for internal transformation. The role of Biscuit in this process deserves additional recognition. As a trainer, she demanded excellence, but she also recognized worth. She called Killua a one-in-a-million talent, not merely flattering him but stating a professional assessment. She pushed him relentlessly because she believed he could meet those demands. Her confidence in his capability helped him develop confidence in himself. Teachers and mentors play crucial roles in development, both fictional and real. The right guidance at the right time can accelerate growth enormously. Wing's basic instruction, Biscuit's intensive training, even the harsh lessons from combat against stronger opponents, all contributed to Killua's evolution. He did not grow alone. He grew within a context of relationships that supported and challenged him. The Zoldyck family, for all their dysfunction, provided certain foundations that proved valuable. Killua's physical capabilities, his resistance to poison and electricity, his stealth and combat techniques, these originated in his upbringing. The training was cruel, but the skills it developed were real. Killua did not reject everything about his past, he repurposed it. This nuance matters. Stories of escape from toxic environments sometimes suggest that everything associated with that environment must be abandoned. But reality is more complex. Killua took what was useful from his training while rejecting the ideology that accompanied it. He kept the abilities while discarding the compulsion to use them only for killing. The ethical framework Killua developed through his journey is not simple pacifism. He remains willing to kill when necessary. During the Chimera Ant arc, he killed multiple enemies without hesitation when circumstances required it. The difference is in who decides when killing is necessary. Under his family's control, others made that decision. As his own person, Killua decides for himself. This autonomy over moral choices represents perhaps the most fundamental aspect of his transformation. He is no longer a weapon pointed by others. He is an agent who chooses his own actions and accepts responsibility for them. The weight of that responsibility might seem heavy, but it is the weight of freedom. Aluka's role in grounding this freedom provides interesting dynamics. By dedicating himself to protecting her, Killua has taken on obligation voluntarily. He is not free from all responsibility. He has chosen which responsibilities to embrace. This is different from the imposed obligations of his family, different from the inherited expectations of his position as heir. He chose Aluka, just as he chose Gon, just as he chose to be something other than an assassin. The question of what happens when chosen obligations conflict has not been tested extensively in the story. What would Killua do if protecting Aluka required abandoning another friend? What compromises might he face as his world expands beyond the relatively simple choice between family and freedom? These questions await future exploration, if Togashi chooses to continue their story. For now, Killua exists in a space between resolutions, his story paused but not concluded. Fans wait for new chapters, for glimpses of his continued journey, for the next phase of a character arc that has already provided so much. The cultural impact of Killua extends beyond the Hunter x Hunter fandom. His character archetype, the skilled but tortured youth who finds redemption through friendship, has influenced subsequent manga and anime. Creators who grew up reading Togashi's work have incorporated elements of Killua's design and development into their own characters. sometimes consciously, sometimes as absorbed influence. The visual design of Killua, with his distinctive silver hair and casual style, has become iconic. Artists and cosplayers can evoke his image through key elements, creating recognition across the global anime community. This visual vocabulary allows fans to connect across language barriers, sharing appreciation for a character through image rather than word. The emotional resonance of his story transcends cultural specifics. While Hunter x Hunter draws on Japanese storytelling traditions and cultural references, the core experiences Killua embodies: the struggle for identity, the power of friendship, the possibility of change. These speak to universal human concerns. Readers and viewers from many backgrounds find their own experiences reflected in his journey. Critical analysis of Killua's character has explored various dimensions. Some scholars of anime and manga have examined his relationship with Gon through various interpretive lenses, noting the depth of emotional connection and the ways it differs from typical shonen protagonist partnerships. Others have analyzed his family dynamics through psychological frameworks, finding parallels with literature on childhood trauma and recovery. The question of Killua's future development remains open. Togashi has created a character with significant room for growth. His abilities could advance further. His relationships could deepen or change. His understanding of himself and his world could continue to evolve. Whether these possibilities will be realized depends on the continuation of the manga, itself dependent on Togashi's health and creative decisions. Fans have learned patience over the years of hiatuses. They celebrate each announcement of returning chapters while accepting uncertainty about future continuity. This patience testifies to the quality of what exists. Even incomplete, Hunter x Hunter has provided enough value to warrant continued engagement and hope. The community that has formed around the series shares theories, creates content, and maintains enthusiasm across the gaps between official releases. This community includes people who discovered the series recently and veterans who have followed it since the 1990s. They share a common appreciation for Togashi's work while often holding different opinions about specific characters or plot points. Killua consistently ranks among the most beloved characters in fan polls and discussions. His combination of cool abilities, emotional depth, and meaningful character development appeals to diverse audiences. He is simultaneously accessible and complex, immediately appealing and rewarding of deeper analysis. For those who identify with his struggles, he provides a kind of representation. Viewers who have faced controlling family situations, who have worked to overcome conditioning, who have found salvation through friendship, see their experiences reflected in his story. This identification creates personal investment beyond simple entertainment. The therapeutic value of fiction, while not a replacement for professional support, should not be dismissed. Stories like Killua's can provide frameworks for understanding personal experience, models for imagining change, and hope that transformation is possible. The emotional response he evokes in fans is not mere sentiment. It connects to genuine human needs for narrative meaning. As sleep approaches, perhaps these thoughts seem distant, abstract. That's natural. The conscious mind releases its grip on analysis as rest beckons. What remains are impressions, feelings, the warm sense of time well spent in contemplation. Killua Zoldyck began as lines on paper, marks made by Yoshihiro Togashi's pen in a Tokyo studio. He became animation cells, voice performances, merchandise, cosplay, fan art, discussion threads, academic analysis, and personal meaning for millions of people around the world. He exists now in countless minds, each version slightly different, shaped by individual experience and interpretation. This multiplication of existence is the peculiar immortality of fictional characters. They outlive their moments of creation, continuing to grow and change through the engagement of their audiences. New readers discover Killua today, and will discover him tomorrow and next year and decades from now. Each discovery creates a new instance of his existence, a new relationship between character and reader. You who are listening now, or who have already drifted into sleep, you carry a version of Killua formed by this experience. However much or little you remember, some impression remains. He has become part of your mental furniture, A reference you might think of in unexpected moments. A story you might share with others who haven't heard it. This is how stories propagate. They pass from mind to mind, changing slightly with each transmission, accumulating meaning through collective engagement. Killua has traveled far from his origins on the pages of Weekly Shonen Jump. He will travel further still. The night continues its quiet passage. Stars move imperceptibly across the sky, following paths set by gravity and momentum. The earth turns beneath them, carrying sleeping millions toward another dawn. Somewhere in all this vastness, stories are being told, listened to, dreamed about. Killua walks beside Aluka in one of those stories. He protects her from dangers both physical and social, from those who would use her power and those who would fear her for possessing it. He shows her the world she was denied during her imprisonment, the simple joys of travel and discovery and freedom. Maybe they're near a beach tonight, listening to waves. Maybe they're in a city, marveling at lights. Maybe they're in a forest, finding peace in green silence. The story doesn't specify, leaving imagination free to place them wherever feels right. What matters is that they're together, that Killua chose this, that the choice represents everything he fought to become. An assassin who stopped killing. A tool that became a person. A boy who was told he couldn't have friends, traveling with someone who knows how deeply he can love. The silver hair catches whatever light exists in the imagined scene. The blue eyes, which can narrow to lethal focus, are soft now, watching his sister with the gentleness he was told he could never possess. His hands, trained to take lives, rest easy, ready to protect rather than destroy. This is Killua Zoldyck at rest, or as close to rest as he may ever come. The vigilance never fully fades, the awareness of danger never completely disappears. But within those constraints, peace exists. It was earned through struggle and maintained through commitment. May your own rest be peaceful as his. May your struggles lead to their own resolutions. May you find friends who see in you what you might not see in yourself, and may you become for others what gone was for Killua, light itself, sometimes too bright to look at directly, but worth staying beside. The story pauses here. Not ends, because stories like this don't truly end. They pause, waiting for the next telling, the next listening, the next dreaming. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about a fictional boy with silver hair and blue eyes, a boy who was raised to kill and chose to protect. Thank you for letting me share this time with you, drifting through facts and feelings, history and hope. The next time you see a story about someone overcoming their past, remember Killua. The next time you wonder if change is possible, remember the needle he pulled from his own brain. The next time you doubt the power of friendship, remember Gon waiting at the Zoldyck estate, refusing to leave until his friend was free. These memories, if they stay with you, carry the essence of what makes Killua matter. Not the electricity or the speed, not the yo-yos or the combat techniques, but the choices. Always the choices. Choose well when you wake. Choose kindly. Choose with awareness of who you're becoming through your choices. And now, truly, finally, this journey reaches its resting point. Sleep well. Dream softly. Wake refreshed to face whatever tomorrow brings. The silver-haired boy walks on, somewhere beyond the boundaries of this story and every story, carrying his sister toward horizons only they can see. Good night. One last moment before we truly part. A few more gentle thoughts to carry into sleep. The number 99 that Killua wore during the 287th Hunter examination has taken on symbolic significance for fans. It was his identifier during the trial that would change his life, the test where he met his best friend. Some see meaning in the number itself, 2 digits short of completion, suggesting a journey not yet finished. Others simply remember it as a visual detail, the badge pinned to his chest as he ran alongside Gon through that underground tunnel. Numbers appear throughout Killua's story. The 50 kilograms each of his yo-yos weighs. The 200 million jenny he spent on candy. The 16 tons he could push at the testing gate before learning Nin. The 148 episodes of the 2011 anime adaptation. The 38 volumes of the manga published so far. These numbers ground the fantasy in specificity, creating the illusion of a world with precise measurements and documented facts. The production of Hunter x Hunter spans decades now. What began in 1998 continues into the present, with fans hoping for more chapters, more story, more time with characters they've come to love. Togashi's health challenges have made regular publication impossible, but his dedication to the work remains evident in his social media presence and periodic updates. The animation studios that brought Killua to life deserve recognition for their contributions. Nippon Animation's 1999 adaptation, while less complete than its successor, established the visual and audio foundation that many fans first encountered. Their interpretation of Killua, with green eyes and a darker overall tone, represents one valid reading of Togashi's work. Madhouse's 2011 adaptation became the definitive version for many viewers, running for 148 episodes and adapting the story through the chairman election arc. Their team, led by director Hiroshi Kujina, created animation that still holds up years later, with fight sequences that remain impressive and emotional moments that continue to affect viewers. The voice actors who performed Killua brought different qualities to the role across these adaptations. Kanako Mitsuhashi's portrayal in the 1999 series captured a certain wistfulness alongside the character's edge. Maria Ayase's performance in 2011 emphasized both the playful and the intense aspects of Killua's personality, earning praise from Togashi himself. In English, Annika Odegaard and Christina V each found their own approach to voicing a character whose emotional range demanded versatility. The music accompanying Killua's scenes contributed to their impact. Yoshihiro Ike composed the soundtrack for the 2011 series, creating themes that fans associate with specific characters and moments. The combination of visual animation, voice performance, and musical accompaniment created experiences that stick in memory long after viewing. Fan engagement with Hunter x Hunter takes many forms. Online communities discuss theories, analyze character motivations, and debate the meaning of various plot points. Artists create illustrations, animations, and designs featuring favorite characters. Writers produce fan fiction exploring scenarios the original work hasn't addressed. Cosplayers transform themselves into Killua and other characters at conventions worldwide. This engagement represents a kind of collective authorship, where the original work serves as foundation for countless derivative creations. Killua exists not only in Togashi's manga and the official adaptations but in all the fan works inspired by him. Each creation adds to the cultural presence of the character, expanding his reach beyond what any single author could achieve. The international popularity of Hunter x Hunter brought Killua to audiences far from Japan. Translations made the manga accessible across languages. Subtitled and dubbed anime reached viewers who couldn't read Japanese. The internet facilitated discussions that crossed national boundaries, creating a global community united by appreciation for Togashi's work. Different cultures bring different perspectives to their engagement with the material. What resonates varies based on local storytelling traditions, social contexts, and individual experiences. But certain elements of Killua's story seem to transcend cultural specificity, touching on human experiences common across societies. The theme of chosen family appears in many cultural contexts. The idea that the people you choose can matter more than the people you're born to has power wherever biological family is idealized or constraining. Killua's choice to prioritize his friendship with Gon and his relationship with Aluka over his obligations to the Zoldyck family speaks to anyone who has found deeper connection outside their original household. The theme of overcoming trauma similarly resonates broadly. While the specific nature of Killua's conditioning is fantastical, the experience of carrying past harm into present relationships is all too common. His journey toward healing, incomplete as it may be, offers hope that recovery is possible, that the past need not determine the future. The value of friendship receives particular emphasis throughout Hunter x Hunter. Gon and Killua's bond demonstrates what becomes possible when two people genuinely support each other. Their willingness to sacrifice for one another, to accept each other's flaws, to grow together through challenges, models a kind of friendship that feels aspirational yet achievable. These themes persist in memory even when specific plot details fade. Years after watching or reading Hunter x Hunter, someone might remember the feeling of Killua's story without recalling the names of the Chimera Ant Royal Guards, or the rules of nin categories. The emotional truth outlasts the informational content. As this night deepens toward its end, as sleep becomes inevitable rather than optional, consider what you'll carry from this experience. Perhaps facts about a fictional character will stay with you. Perhaps the general shape of his journey will remain accessible. Perhaps only a vague warmth, the sense of time well spent, will persist. All of these outcomes have value. Stories serve many purposes, and not all of them require conscious retention. The experience of engaging with narrative can shift something internal without requiring memory of the narrative itself. You may be slightly different for having spent this time with Killua, even if you can't articulate how. The closing words approach, and with them, the permission to fully surrender to rest. The vigilance of listening can release. The effort of attention can cease. Whatever mental processes have been engaged can quiet toward the stillness that sleep requires. Killua learned to sleep with part of his brain awake, an assassin's precaution against danger. You don't need such vigilance. You can sleep deeply, fully, trusting that the night will pass safely and morning will bring renewed capability. The world outside this moment, with all its concerns and complications, will wait. It has no choice. Time moves whether we attend to it or not, and the interval of sleep creates space for body and mind to restore themselves. This restoration is not indulgence but necessity, the foundation for whatever tomorrow demands. So rest now. Let the story settle into whatever form your memory gives it. Let Killua walk beside Aluka in your imagination, if imagination still functions as sleep approaches, or let him fade into the general warmth of narrative engagement. The 101 facts have been shared, woven into context and reflection. The journey from Kukura Mountain to the present moment of the story has been traced. The people who created Killua and brought him to life have been acknowledged. The themes his story embodies have been named. What remains is silence, or its literary equivalent, the end of words, the yielding of narrative to the wordless experience of rest. Thank you, one final time, for your attention. For your willingness to drift through a fictional world in pursuit of sleep. For caring, even in this small way, about a character who exists only in story and mind. May your dreams, if they come, be gentle. May your waking, when it comes, be refreshed. May the days ahead bring whatever you need them to bring. And may you remember, when remembering serves, that change is possible. That friendship is powerful. That the person you choose to become matters more than the person you were told to be. Good night.